Ready? Be ready. Start. In the present appeal, the insurance company has challenged the award only on the ground that the compensation awarded to the claimants is excessive and arbitrary, and the rate of interest awarded by the tribunal, that is 8% per annum, calculated from the date of filing the claim petition, is also arbitrary. It was argued by the counsel for the appellant that in column number 6 of the claim petition, the claimant has stated the income of the deceased to be rupees 15,000 per annum, and therefore the tribunal had acted arbitrarily in determining the compensation on the basis of a notional income of rupees 20,000 per annum. It was also argued by the counsel for the appellant that the deceased was a bachelor, and therefore, while determining the multiplication, 50% should have been deducted as personal expenses from the notional income of the deceased, and the tribunal had erred in deducting only 1/3 as personal expenses of the deceased. It was argued that, in view of the aforesaid, the award of the tribunal is liable to be modified by reducing the compensation payable to the claimant. Full stop. New para. Rebutting the argument of the counsel for the appellant, the counsel for the claimant has argued that the income of the deceased was stated to be rupees 15,000 per annum, column 6 of the claim petition, on the basis of the notional income provided in paragraph 6 of the second schedule. It was also argued by the counsel for the claimant that under section 168 of the Act 1998, the tribunal is required to hold an inquiry into the claim and award just compensation, and the compensation payable to the claimants would not be reduced because a lesser amount was claimed as compensation in the claim petition. In support of his cross objection, the counsel for the claimant has argued that from the evidence on record, it was proved that at the time of his death, the deceased was earning rupees 5,000 per month, and therefore the tribunal had acted arbitrarily in determining compensation on the basis of a notional income of rupees 20,000 per annum. It was also argued by the counsel for the claimant that the multiplier has to be decided considering the age of the deceased and not the age of the parents of the deceased. It was further argued that the tribunal had also erred in not awarding any amount to the claimant for funeral expenses and loss of estate, as well as for loss of love and affection. It was further argued by the counsel for the claimant that the claimant was entitled to interest of 12% per annum, and the award of the tribunal awarding merely 8% per annum as interest of liable to be modified. Thus, it is held that the deceased was unemployed, and the argument of the counsel of the claimant and compensation should be rupees 5,000 per month is rejected. Full stop. The notional income of the deceased and the consequential compensation payable to the claimant is decided later on in the judgment. Full stop. New para. When we understand the factual matrix in the backdrop of the objections of the above two legislations, the controversy in the instant case assumes immense significance. full stop. There is an interest of the bank in recovering the non-performing asset on the one hand and protecting the rights of the blameless tenant on the other. The Rent Control Act must be construed as such. A landlord cannot be permitted to do indirectly what he has been barred from doing under the Rent Control Act. More so when the two legislations, that is the SARFAESI Act and the Rent Control Act, separate in completely different fields. Full stop. While SARFAESI Act is concerned with non-performing assets of the banks, the Rent Control Act governs the relationship between the tenant and the landlord and specifies the rights and liabilities of each as well as the rules of ejectment with respect to such tenants. Full stop. These provisions of the SARFAESI Act cannot be used to override the provisions of the Rent Control Act. If the contentions of the learned counsel for the respondent bank are to be accepted, it would render the entire scheme of all rent control acts operating in the country as useless and nugatory. Tenants would be left wholly to the mercy of their landlords and in the fear that the landlord may use the tenanted premises as a security interest while taking a loan from a bank and subsequently default on it, and the landlord would simply have to give up the tenanted premises as a security interest to the creditor banks when he is still getting rent for the same. In case of default of the loan, the maximum burnt will be borne by the unsuspected tenant who would be evicted from the possession of the tenanted property by the bank under the provisions of the SARFAESI Act. Under no circumstances can this be permitted, more so in view of the statutory protection to the tenants under the Rent Control Act and also in respect of the contractual tenants along with the possession of their properties which shall be obtained with due process of law. Full stop. New para. The issue of determination of tenancy is also one which is well settled. While Section 106 of the Transfer of Property Act does provide for registration of leases which are created on a year-to-year basis, what needs to be remembered is the effect of non-registration of the creation of the tenancy by way of an oral agreement. According to Section 106 of the Transfer of Property Act, a monthly tenancy shall be deemed to be a tenancy from month to month and must be registered if it is reduced into writing. The Transfer of Property Act, however, remains silent on the position of law in cases where the agreement is not reducing into writing if the two parties are executing their rights and liabilities in the nature of a landlord-tenant relationship, and if regular tenant is being paid and accepted, then the mere factum of non-registration of need will not make the lease itself nugatory. Full stop. New para. Section 71 of the Evidence Act is the nature of a safeguard to the mandatory provisions of Section 68 of the Evidence Act to meet a situation where it is not possible to prove the execution of the will by calling attesting witnesses. This section provides that if an attesting witness denies or does not recollect the execution of the will, its execution may be proved by other evidence. Full stop. Aid of Section 71 can be taken only when the attesting witnesses who have been called deny or fail to recollect the execution of the document to prove it by other evidence. Section 71 has no application to a case where one attesting witness who alone had been summoned has failed to prove the execution of the will and other attesting witnesses through are available to prove the execution of the name for the reasons best known have not been summoned before the court. Full stop. It is clear from the language of section 71 that if an attesting witness denies or does not recollect execution of the document, its execution may be proved by other evidence. Full stop. However, in a case where an attesting witness fails to prove the due execution of will as required under clause within bracket C of section 63 of the Succession Act. Full stop. Thank you.